At the kitchen counter, my fiancé said, I needed someone who makes life feel less weighted, and I replied, then live lighter, just not with my ring on your hand. The receipt was a printed airline itinerary I found face down on our home printer with her name next to his. Hey friends, please like this video and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you, it's all thanks to you. 14 weeks, that was the countdown on the whiteboard. Hannah insisted on keeping on the fridge like we were running a small company instead of planning a wedding. Every Sunday night she'd rewrite it in fresh marker, add a little star next to whatever vendor was next, and then step back and smile like the numbers themselves were romantic. We lived in a third-floor condo we rented in Minneapolis, a place with big windows that made winter mornings look clean even when the streets were slushy. Our entryway had a pile of boots that never really dried. The dining table was half normal life, mail, my coffee mug, the bowl of keys, and half wedding life, place card samples, a binder, and a little envelope labeled DJ Balance. In the living room, a garment bag hung from the coat rack because Hannah didn't want my suit getting crushed in the closet. In the spare bedroom, boxes of centerpieces sat next to a suitcase we'd started packing early because she liked feeling prepared. That suitcase was the weirdest detail now because it wasn't for the honeymoon. It was for a long weekend she'd told me was a work conference. Here's the detail that mattered. I wasn't a suspicious person by nature. I'm a building inspector for the city. My job is to look at what's in front of me, compare it to the rules, and write down what's true. I don't get to guess. I don't get to dramatize. I get to document. Hannah worked in marketing for a regional outdoor gear brand, the kind of place that made everything sound like a lifestyle. She loved words like intentional and aligned. I used to find it charming. I thought it meant she cared. I didn't realize those words could also be used to slide around accountability. The night everything tipped, it wasn't a dramatic scene. It was boring. I was wiping down the counter after dinner while she showered, and I hit print on a PDF from our venue, the updated alcohol package, because the coordinator wanted a signed copy. Our printer was old and loud. It coughed out paper like it was annoyed at being asked. I grabbed the first page, signed it, and then noticed there were 2 more pages behind it that I hadn't sent. A flight itinerary. 2 passengers. Hannah Jensen and Owen Parker. I stood there holding it like my brain couldn't decide whether to treat it like trash or evidence. The dates were for the same weekend. She'd told me she'd be in Chicago for a leadership summit. The return flight landed late Sunday night. There was even a seat selection note, 2 seats together. Then I noticed the hotel line on the second page. Harborview Suites, Seattle, WA. Seattle was Chicago. And Owen Parker wasn't any coworker name I'd ever heard in 3 years together. I didn't dig through her phone. I didn't log into anything. I didn't go looking for more. I didn't need to. The paper in my hands was already enough. When Hannah came out of the bathroom with wet hair and a robe, she looked relaxed. She smiled at me like she was walking into a normal evening. Did you print the venue thing? She asked. I held up the itinerary. Why did this print from our computer? Her smile didn't drop right away. It hesitated, like a screen freezing. Then her eyes focused on the names, and her face changed in a way that told me everything before she spoke. Why are you looking at that? She said, too quickly. I kept my tone even, because it came out of our printer. Who is Owen Parker? She exhaled hard, the kind of breath people take when they've been holding a secret and it suddenly gets heavy. It's not what you think. I nodded once calm, then tell me what it is. She walked to the kitchen like she needed movement to create a new reality. She opened the fridge, stared inside, and shut it without taking anything out. That's when I knew, not because of the itinerary, but because she couldn't even pretend convincingly. Hannah was usually smooth. She could talk anyone into anything. Now she couldn't talk her way out of a piece of paper. It's work, she said finally. It's a brand partnership trip. I didn't raise my voice. I just tapped the second name with my finger. Owen Parker is work. She stared at my finger like it was a weapon. He's a freelancer we've been using. Okay, I said. Why are you traveling with him? Her eyes got glossy. Grant, please. Answer the question, I said, still controlled. She swallowed because I wanted to. There it was, not a defense, a confession in miniature. I set the itinerary down on the counter carefully, like I was trying not to smear something. Are you sleeping with him? She didn't answer immediately. She looked down, and in that pause, the truth walked into the room and sat down between us. Yes, she whispered. I felt my stomach turn cold, but my voice stayed steady. How long? A few months, she said, wiping at her face. It wasn't supposed to become this. A few months while we were sending deposits, while we were addressing invitations, while she was practicing her vows on the couch and laughing when she got emotional. I took a slow breath. So the leadership summit is Seattle with him. She nodded, crying now. I didn't know how to stop it. What did you think would happen? I asked. She looked at me like I was being unfair. I thought I'd figure it out before it mattered. It matters now, I said. Then she said the line that made my chest feel strangely quiet, like a decision locking into place. With him, I feel I don't know. I feel like I'm not always being the good version of myself. I'm not always managing a calendar, managing a budget, managing a future. With him, it feels open, like I can just exist. There it was, the free idea in a fresh outfit, not an apology, a pitch. I didn't argue about whether I let her exist. I didn't defend my stability. I've seen enough bad construction to know when something is failing at the foundation. You don't fix it with paint. I said one sentence, calm and final, the same one I'd already given her. Then live lighter, just not with my ring on your hand. She stared at me like she expected a different script, anger, bargaining, a meltdown she could react to. Instead, I turned and walked to the hallway closet where the wedding binder lived. I didn't rip it apart, I didn't throw it. I brought it to the table and set it down. We're done, I said. Tonight you can sleep in the spare room. Tomorrow we talk logistics. Logistics, she repeated, like the word offended her. Yes, I said, money, lease, vendors, all of it. She cried harder, you're being so cold. I kept my voice low, I'm being clear. That night I didn't sleep much. I didn't pace. I didn't scroll. I lay there listening to the building's radiator clicking and the city noise outside, and I made a mental list of everything our lives were attached to. Joint checking for bills, a shared credit card, the venue deposit in my name, the photographer retainer in hers, a honeymoon package we'd booked to Banff with a travel agent because Hannah wanted something scenic but easy. Then I noticed something else that mattered. I wasn't dreaming of how to win her back. I was planning how to exit without chaos. At 8:15 the next morning, I sat in my car outside a small law office in St. Paul with a coffee I didn't taste. I wasn't there for revenge. I was there for a clean plan. The attorney, a man named Peter with a calm voice and a tidy desk, listened without interrupting while I explained. Engaged, wedding in 14 weeks, shared lease, shared accounts, vendor contracts. He asked practical questions. Any shared property titles, he said. No. Any children? No. Lace in both names? Yes. He nodded. Good, that simplifies some things. You're not married, so this isn't divorce, but you still have contractual entanglements. Your priorities are separate finances, document shared assets, set a move-out timeline, keep communication written, and handle vendor cancellations in a way that limits further losses. Then he looked at me and said, don't negotiate the relationship, negotiate the exit. That sentence felt like oxygen, not because I was relieved to lose her, but because it gave me permission to stay in reality. I went home and found Hannah sitting at the kitchen table, eyes puffy, clutching her phone like it was a life raft. Did you really go to a lawyer? She asked. Yes, I said. She shook her head. This is insane. No, I replied, calm. This is structured. I didn't wave papers at her. I spoke in simple steps. You have 2 weeks to move out, I said. We'll notify the landlord today and see if one of us can assume the lease. We separate finances today. We cancel the wedding vendors today. If you need to say something to people, you can. I won't be explaining myself. Her mouth fell open. 2 weeks. You can stay with your sister in Edina, I said, or a short-term rental, but you're not staying here indefinitely. She started crying again, but this time there was a thread of anger under it. You're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. I'm acting like someone who can't marry you, I said. Those are different things. Here's where the practical part kicked in. I went to the bank and opened a new account in my name. I changed my direct deposit. I transferred my share of the joint funds based on what we'd each contributed to bills, leaving enough to cover the utilities until we could separate them properly. I emailed Hannah a clean breakdown, dates, amounts, and what the remaining balance was intended for. No surprises, no games. I froze the shared credit card and requested it be converted into 2 separate accounts if possible. The representative on the phone didn't care about my heartbreak. She cared about liability. That was comforting. Then I contacted the landlord. The lease allowed for removal with approval, but it required a signed addendum and a processing fee. The landlord emailed the form. I saved it, another lawful receipt in writing. Hannah signed it the next day with shaking hands, then looked at me like she wanted me to feel guilty. I didn't. I felt relieved that one more tie was loosening. Then came the cancellation montage, the part people never imagine when they picture betrayal. They picture tears. They don't picture cancellation policies. The venue was first, a historic mill space along the river that Hannah loved because it looked warm and modern. We depaid a $5,200 deposit, non-refundable, with a clause about rescheduling within a year. I emailed them from my account, copied Hannah, and wrote one sentence: "We are canceling. Please confirm the refund policy in writing." They replied the same day: deposit forfeited, remaining balance canceled, confirmation attached. I saved it, screenshot, folder. Caterer $1,100 tasting fee and retainer. Retainer non-refundable. If canceled before 90 days, we wouldn't owe anything else. We were barely inside that window. Photographer $1,800 retainer, non-refundable, but transferable to a family session. I declined. I didn't want a consolation photo shoot. DJ $600 deposit, non-refundable. Florist surprisingly kind. They refunded most of it minus a design fee. Dress alterations. Hannah had already paid part of it. It wasn't coming back. Travel agent, Banff package partially refundable, with airline credits for my portion. I canceled everything under my name immediately and got confirmations. Then I called the jewelers. The ring was purchased on my card. The return policy had passed, but they offered a buyback option. I scheduled an appointment and got the policy in writing. Every call ended the same way. Polite tone, confirmation email, saved receipt. Hannah watched me do it like she couldn't understand how I could be so calm. The truth was, calm was the only way to keep from making mistakes that would cost me years. Then the social pressure wave hit like a tide. Her mother called and left a voicemail that started with, "What are you doing?" as if I was the one who broke the rules. Her friends texted in a group chat I'd been added to for wedding planning. "Is this a joke? Hannah says you're overreacting. Can you at least meet and talk like adults?" I wrote one response, and it was the only one I sent. "The engagement is over. I'm not discussing details. Please respect our privacy." Then I muted it. My own brother texted, "Want me to come over?" and I said, "Not yet, just stay available." Here's the detail that mattered. I wasn't alone, but I also wasn't recruiting an audience. I didn't want a crowd. I wanted a clean exit. Hannah tried multiple angles in the second week. One night she stood in the doorway of the spare room, eyes red, voice trembling. "I ended it with Owen," she said. I kept my face neutral. "Okay." She blinked. "That's all." "That's all," I said. She stepped closer like proximity could soften a boundary. I made a mistake. I was stressed. Wedding planning felt like a machine. With him, it felt like I could breathe without being measured. I didn't argue about her feelings. I just stated reality. "You still chose secrecy," I said. "You still used our life as the cover." Her jaw tightened. "You're acting like I never mattered to you." I looked at her steadily. "You mattered enough that I was going to marry you. That's why this ends it." She cried harder. "So you're just going to move on?" I shook my head. "I'm going to move forward." Then I set the final boundary in writing, because spoken boundaries get rewritten later. I emailed her a simple note: move-out date, no overnight guests, communication by text or email only, and a list of shared bills we still needed to untangle. She replied with one sentence, "You're treating me like a tenant." And I replied, "That's what you are now." By day 12, she was packing. Boxes lined the hallway. She moved in small, tight motions like she was trying not to fully inhabit what she'd done. Her sister came to help and wouldn't look me in the eye. At one point, her sister said quietly, "She's hurting." I kept my voice polite. I'm not trying to hurt her. I'm trying to end this without chaos. When Hannah carried her last box out, she stopped on the threshold and looked back like she expected me to crack. "I didn't think you'd really do it," she whispered. I nodded once. I did. She took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry." "I believe you," I said. "Please don't contact me unless it's about remaining paperwork." She stood there a second longer, then left. The door clicked shut, and the condo felt strangely quiet, like the building itself was listening. That's when I started rebuilding in small, real ways. I changed the layout of the living room, not because furniture movement cures pain, but because it breaks mental routines. I moved the couch away from the window where Hannah used to sit and scroll. I bought a plain lamp and a new rug with no memory attached to it. I threw away the whiteboard countdown. I took the wedding binder and put it in a storage bin along with the leftover invitations. I didn't tear them. I didn't burn them. I just ended the project. Then I put my body back into my life. I started walking every morning before work along the river trail, even when it was cold enough to sting my ears. I joined a gym near my office and kept my routine simple: treadmill, weights, stretch. No revenge, anything, just discipline. At work, I volunteered for a new certification, commercial plan review, that came with a pay bump and more stable hours. I'd been putting it off because wedding planning had eaten my energy. Now I had energy again, and I needed it pointed somewhere. Here's the detail that mattered. When you stop spending your focus on someone else's double life, you suddenly have room to build your own. About 3 weeks after Hannah moved out, she tried to come back. First was an email titled, "Please read." It was long: apologies, explanations, claims that she'd been lost. She wrote that Owen made her feel seen without expectations, and she mistook that for love. She wrote that she wanted counseling. She wrote that she missed our routines. She wrote that she'd never forgive herself. I read it once, then responded with 4 sentences. "I received your email. I'm not reopening the relationship. If you need copies of any vendor confirmations for your records, tell me which ones. Otherwise, please stop contacting me." Her reply came fast. "So you're just done, no conversation, no closure." I stared at that word, closure, because it's often used as a lever. People ask for closure when they really want access. I wrote back, "The closure is that I said no." Then came the phone call. Late at night, I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that sounded like tears and regret and a desire to rewind time. I didn't respond. The third attempt was in person. She showed up outside my building with a small bag and said, "I just want to talk." I stayed in the lobby, not letting it turn into a doorstep scene. "I'm not doing this in person," I said calmly. "Email if it's administrative." Her face twisted like my calm was an insult. "You're acting like I'm dangerous." I held her gaze. "You're acting like my boundary is negotiable." She left, and I went upstairs and sat on my couch in the new position and felt something surprising. Not triumph, not anger. Relief. Then karma arrived, and it didn't come from me. It came from her choices piling up with someone else's character. About 2 months after the breakup, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi, this is Hannah. I had to change my number." I didn't answer. A minute later, another text arrived. "I'm not asking to get back together. I need a document." Against my better instincts, I replied once, "What document?" Her response came in a rush. "Owen used my credit. I co-signed something. I didn't understand what it meant. Now there's a collections notice, and they're saying I owe $12,000. I need proof that the wedding was canceled because I'm trying to explain why I can't pay." Here's the karmic event: a financial mess, not an HR scandal, not a public exposure, a clean, ugly money consequence that happens when you trust the wrong person while trying to feel free. I didn't ask what she co-signed. I didn't ask for details. I kept it simple. I can forward vendor cancellation confirmations, I wrote. That's all. She replied, please, I'm drowning. I forwarded the venue cancellation email and the travel cancellation confirmations. Nothing more, no commentary. She sent a long message back filled with regret and panic. He told me it was just a short-term lease for equipment. He said it would help him with a project. Then the payment started. Then he disappeared. He blocked me. I can't believe I ruined my life for this. I read it and I felt something very quiet. Not satisfaction, not pity. Clarity. Because the same kind of person who offers you a lighter life with no consequences is often the kind of person who leaves you holding the consequences alone. I replied once carefully. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. I can't be involved beyond forwarding confirmations. Please contact a lawyer or a credit counselor. She wrote back, do you ever miss me? I didn't respond. That was the real end, not a dramatic goodbye, just a boundary held through silence. A few weeks later, I took my reset chapter, not to escape, to remind myself I was still a person with a life bigger than this. I went to Santa Fe, New Mexico for 4 days. I didn't choose it because it was trendy. I chose it because it wasn't ours. No shared memories, no canceled plans, just a place with different air. On the second day, I took a pottery class because I'd always wanted to try it and never did. The studio smelled like wet clay and coffee. There were people older than me, younger than me, all quietly focused on their own hands. An older woman next to me, gray hair in a braid, wedding band worn thin, watched me struggle to center the clay and said, don't fight it, be steady. I laughed softly. That's apparently my whole personality. She smiled without looking up. Steady isn't boring. Steady is what holds shape. I didn't tell her my story. I didn't need to. The sentence was enough. When I got back to Minneapolis, my life didn't feel perfect, but it felt mine again. I passed my certification exam. I started sleeping through the night. I stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed. Months later, I ran into Hannah by accident at a grocery store in Northeast. I was picking up coffee and eggs. She was at the self-checkout with a basket of random things and a face that looked tired in a way makeup couldn't hide. Our eyes met. She hesitated like she wanted to step into my space. I didn't. I gave her a polite nod, the way you do with someone you used to know. She swallowed and said quietly, hi. Hi, I replied. She looked down at her receipt as it printed, then back up at me like she wanted to say something meaningful. Instead, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't give her a lecture. I didn't give her comfort. I gave her truths. I hope you build a better life, I said. She blinked, tears gathering, and I could see her waiting for an opening. There wasn't one. I took my groceries and walked out into the cold air, and my chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. My mind didn't replay the itinerary. It was over the way a project is over when the permit is closed and the file is archived. People like to say the best revenge is living well. I don't even call it revenge. It's just the reward for doing the hard, boring thing, keeping receipts, holding boundaries, and walking away the first time someone asks you to carry their secret. Respect yourself enough to leave. That's it.